The first rule in grip sport is you tell everyone about grip sport.
Crushing, pinch grip, thick bar, wrists.
If the best guy in the world can't lift 100 pounds on it, I don't give a shit about it.
All right, everybody, this is Zach Mullins, your host for The Grip Show. Welcome you to another episode here, and I have another interview for you guys, and this one's going to be a little bit different. We'll get into all that, but right now with me, I have Jaylen Worley, also known as W Grip. So if anybody wants to find him anywhere, pretty much just Instagram, right? Or
Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube.
Okay. I didn't know that. So yeah. So
I don't do much on TikTok. I have it because I feel like a lot more people use it, but it's a pain in the ass to keep updated. So Instagram is my main place. So
okay, yeah. So W Grip. A lot of people probably have already been familiar with you, or at least seen some of your lifts, at least within the community. But for anybody that's not, W Grip or Jaylen Worley, and like I said, and if you're not following him, well, maybe during this interview, do it. Or during this interview, we're going to let you know why maybe you should be following him and checking out some stuff. So we'll get into that. So man, just welcome to the show in general.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's really, really cool.
Now, recently we had a short clip I released with Chaz Strange, and it was from his episode where he was kind of breaking down the Mash Monster ladder for the grip board. And I hate to kind of regurgitate what I've already said a little bit from this, but basically the grip board is like an old school grip form. It's been around for probably a couple decades, or close to it. And if anybody isn't familiar with it, you can check out the clip I have with Chaz where he kind of breaks it down. But essentially what makes this Mash Monster gripper certification unique is the fact that everybody closes the same gripper. So you don't get that 5 to 20 pound variance in the RGC or the rating of the gripper that you could potentially have with an Iron Mind cert where they just send you a random number 3 or a random 3.5. Those things could vary so much. So when you do this ladder that Jaylen's getting ready to attempt one of these grippers, and we're going to talk about that. But when you do this ladder, there's no questions that anybody's closing an easier or a harder one. It's the same shit. So when they do it, it's definite. Do you have anything to add to that?
No, you've summed it up nicely. It's really cool that it's all the same gripper because you can go to mashmonster.com and look at the list of everyone who's done it. And just to know, you're closing the same one that some of the big names, like Paul Knight and just Dave Morton and all these legends of the sport, right? That came before us, to know that you're doing the same thing that they're doing, albeit in better conditions because we know a little bit more about how to train and stuff. But it's really cool to be doing the same things that they were and seeing where you stack up with history.
Absolutely. And just so we're going to kind of, throw this out there for everybody. You've received the gripper today, right? Probably not too long ago. So yes, he has the packaging here. So what's going to be a little different is a lot of times, like I said, people are filming this and, they send in their attempt, it gets judged, all that stuff. There's rules for the certification, but to my knowledge, I don't know if anyone's ever actually done their attempt in conjunction with a show or an interview. So that's something that me and you kind of talked about and came up with on the spot. I thought it was a pretty cool idea. Yeah. And you seem to kind of almost welcome that pressure or want that pressure.
Absolutely.
You know what I
mean? Yeah, dude, I eat pressure. Anything I can do to make things as hard as possible, short of doing completely psycho things, right? But to do this, so this is cool because with this gripper, the MM7, I did the MM6 last week, and immediately as soon as I sent the MM6 back to Canon, I requested the 7. I haven't trained since I closed the MM6, so I don't really know where I stand with this thing. So I'm confident in myself that I'm going to close it here with you, but I could also fail. But part of doing it this way is because I want to condition my competitive mindset and my the mental part of this game. I want to condition it as much as I can. So as I continue to progress through grippers, arm lifting, pressure's nothing, right? So this is fun. This is cool. This is going to be something cool for everybody to see. But at the same time, it's like a training tool for me to do it this way.
Absolutely.
So I'm super pumped about it. Yeah.
I think that's kind of a cool aspect you're bringing up, and that's something that kind of sets you apart in some ways from a lot of people that we've seen in grip so far. Like I said, because I mean, I would say you're newer to grip in the sense that like the last year or so really have kind of.
Yeah, I started almost exactly a year ago.
Okay. Yeah. But you've pulled off some, I mean, insane certifications, some great lifts, and had great progress so far. So what he has with him is the MM7. Now, correct me if I'm wrong here. There's only been 8 people that have closed that and done this process.
Yep. If I touch the handles today, I'll be number 9 since I think 2011 is when the first time, I think Paul Knight's the first. He closed it 2011, I believe.
Okay.
So the last one to do it is David Shamey from Russia. So.
Okay. Yeah. And if anybody's familiar with the names Paul Knight and Dave Shamey, you understand the territory we're talking about when it comes to this feat. So, and if you're not familiar with those names, go check them out.
Yep.
Because you should know those names.
Savages.
So yeah, if Jaylen pulls this off for us here, this is going to be, you know, him being the 9th person joining this list. And like I said, it's pretty much one of the most foolproof gripper certifications you can do, just in the sense that pretty much once he unboxes this gripper, what's the time limit? Is it 15 minutes or
at 15 minutes to do 3 attempts?
Okay.
I'm probably only going to go for 1 because I'm competing with you on Saturday and I want to limit the damage to my muscles and tendons.
Now, is that a thing with the Mash Monster? Is that do you have to take all 3 attempts, or is that just kind of an insurance thing in case there's the issue with the camera? Or
what's happened in the past is that some guys have like filmed their footage with like a potato, like a really poor camera, right?
Yeah.
And it's blurry or they can't get a still frame of the handles touching. So they want 3 attempts. Just so you have more than 1 is like an insurance policy, like you said. But if you've seen any of my closes, you know, on the first one, I overcrush the thing and I hold it closed as long as I can. So there's no question. So if I get it today, I'm going to do 1 close, but it'll be definitive that I won't have to do the other 2. I might just do them like playing around just so I can say I did 3, but
gotcha.
Yeah, I'm not going to go all out on 3 attempts here. If I do miss the first one, then I'll probably go hard on the second, but
kind of regroup. Yeah.
Yeah. But, I'm pretty sure I'm not going to miss.
Okay. And like I said, I mean, as we kind of roll through the interview, I mean, he's going to be taking his warm-up attempts and kind of doing his thing. And like I said, he's just kind of going at his own pace now because this certification is really the priority right now, even though we're kind of mid-interview. So I'm kind of letting him do his thing while we kind of touch on some of these subjects. But yeah, really just trying to familiarize people with what's going on, because the Mash Monster ladder has been around for a long time. Like I said, I just posted a clip last week with Chaz talking about it. But it's a really unique certification. And in recent years, you're probably, I don't know. Do you know when you said Dave Shamey was the last to do it, you think?
It's almost been exactly 2 years since he did it.
Okay, I was going to say, so this really hasn't been, I mean, no one's really requested the MM7 or took a shot at it in a while.
No one's, since Cannon put it up after David sent it back, I'm the next one to touch it since then. So. Okay,
so this thing hasn't been touched in 2 years pretty much. Yep. So that's what we're looking at right now. So I just want to put that out there for everybody, so that just so they're like, you know, okay, whatever, he's got a gripper. What's that mean? Well, okay, we're trying to explain to you the magnitude of what this is and what's going on. So, yep. And Jaylen's going to be unwrapping this and doing everything right here in front of us. He has a second camera rolling to capture different angles and everything, just so this can be foolproof.
See the 7?
Yep. Can see the 7 there.
MM.
And the MM. Yep.
Cool. So there it is. All right. You can see it in the table there.
Yep. It's on the table. Yep. You're good. You're in frame. And like I said, you can make sure you're on your second camera as well. But for my video, you're in my frame. But yeah, cool. As long as that other camera's looking good, you're good.
Okay. Yep. I'm going to chalk up here.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, so I guess like one of the things we were talking about before we started filming here was, Zach was being very mindful and kind about respecting my process of how I get ready for this. Um, I film almost every close that I do. I think I can't say I filmed every close that I've done, but I film every workout because you have to train the filming if you're going to do this kind of thing, because that's where most gripper certs go wrong, is the filming. You either aren't in frame all the way, or your lighting sucks, or there could be a number of things that go wrong. So, I'm pretty chill. I do this a lot. So the filming part is really no big deal. I'm actually feeling pretty good, even though I know a lot of people are going to watch this. So, yeah, Zach, you can talk a little bit about whatever's on your mind. I'm going to stand up here,
Okay.
Get things in position, hit
yeah,
my
I was gonna
ammonia,
say,
and I'm going to slam this thing shut.
Okay, yeah, and I'll kind of quiet down whenever you go to do the attempt or whatever. But a lot of good points that he's talking about, because filming and documenting the gripper close is almost or probably just as important as closing the gripper for these certifications. You have to do it. So the filming is every much as part of a process as or every bit as important as the close itself or the training you're doing with the gripper is being able to document it and have that definitive proof. So I've fallen victim to that. I did the MM0, which is just taking a random number 3 and closing it. And the first time I sent it in, I had shitty filming, and I know the handle's touched, but there was like certain points in the video where like you could see like gaps of daylight. And then but I know it was closed at some point, but it was shit filming and it wasn't good. And I got failed. So I technically did it, got failed, but then I was like, well, okay, go back to the drawing board, train this a little bit more, did some more gripper work. And like 2 weeks later, like slammed it, held it like you said. And then it was like, okay, boom, 3 white lights, you're good to go. So I did do the MM0, but I had to do a second try because my filming was shit. So absolutely. Even if you're not doing a certification, getting those practice reps in filming is part of the game.
Yeah. So you want everything to feel normal. You don't want anything to just, throw you for a loop at the last minute.
Yeah, you start changing,
which is exactly why I agreed to do it live in an interview.
Yeah. So, well, you don't want to get to that point, and then you start, changing where you're standing or changing the angle of your hand, and I mean, you're just doing what you always do.
Yep.
Because I mean, you've trained it. So,
all right, man. Well, I'm gonna give it a go here. So
awesome.
And enjoy the show.
All right, so right now we're getting ready to gear up for Jaylen attempting the MM7, and he will be the 9th person ever if these handles touch.
There it is.
That's easy, man.
How long can I go?
Destroyed it. Man. No, that's awesome to see. That was fucking good, I mean, that almost. We'll get into it, man. But how did that? How did that feel? Because it looked easy.
It felt good. It didn't feel too much different than the MM6.
Okay,
but I recover very quickly, and. I don't want to sound arrogant or anything, but I have gained strength at such a crazy pace. I feel like I'm going up 1 or 2 RGC a workout, and it hasn't stopped. It's insane.
Okay. Yeah.
So like when I was getting ready for the MM6, I was struggling with this super elite that I have. It's 195. In 2 workouts, I went from being like 6 millimeters away to like 1 in 2 workouts.
Yeah,
it's nuts. I don't really know what's happening, but just to get some insight into like what goes on in my mind during a close, maybe it helps somebody train and get better. Like you can see, like I'm out of breath, right? Like that was hard. Like I put effort into that.
Oh yeah.
I always overcrush. I hold it as long as I can. I don't do reps. My close style is different than most people's. I think you see a lot of people that do fast, fast closes. They start to make a noise when the handles touch, right? I'm a more slow, like hydraulic kind of style. So rep work doesn't really work for me, like physiologically. So I overcrush, I hold it as long as I can. And if you notice on almost every close I do, I hold the negative as slow. I let it go as slowly as possible. I think that's a big reason why I've gotten so strong so quickly on these things is I maximize the contraction, I hold the static, and I prolong the negative. And if you know anything about Mike Mincer in high intensity training, that works for me. So I try to focus on all three aspects of a lift or a close. And it seems to be working for me. So a little insight on how to do things.
And thanks for sharing that insight with anybody that's watching or listening right now, because everybody has different hands, different methods, different stuff. There's a lot of different paths that lead to, whatever somebody's next goal may be. But when you're kind of looking up that ladder, and I know we're literally talking about a figurative ladder, like the Mash Monster ladder, but when you're looking up and you see those guys that are higher up than you at something, it's usually good to tune in, So when someone like you is sharing this advice, if you're out there wanting to close big grippers or you're wanting to chase these certs, Jaylen is somebody to listen to. And like I said, the proof is in the close. The proof is in the videos, the proof is in the training. So this isn't somebody selling you some BS or, some theory. It's being, it's delivered and acted out right before you. It's proved.
Yeah. And if you followed my YouTube at all, you'll see I've changed my training methodology 4 or 5 times in the year that I've been doing it, because it has a lot to do with my career background too, which we can get into later. But one of the things I've learned is you fail fast. So when something's not working, you acknowledge it and you move on, right? You don't sit there and try to force something to work. It's either going to work or it's not. And with lifting and especially grip sport, if you don't feel an improvement from the last time you worked out from whatever you did, it probably isn't a good thing to keep doing. You should feel like you're getting stronger, at least in some aspect of a lift every workout. And so if I'm not getting that satisfaction of hey, I feel stronger than last time, if I've recovered properly and my nutrition's in check, if everything else is good, then I should get stronger every workout. Not huge jumps, but I should feel some improvement, either another rep or I held it longer, I lifted it higher, whatever. So I'm not afraid to change what I'm doing. And now I've stumbled upon to kind of my routine now, which my workout is super low volume, but high intensity. I don't do more than probably 3 to 5 closes a workout. And then I do that once a week, 5 closes a week. And I'm getting this strong on these things.
Yeah. And that might be something that I was going to say earlier was you kind of spoke about how quick these jumps are coming and how fast you're kind of climbing up with these things. A big part of that might just be the recovery. I mean, you said you didn't do anything since the last time you touched the MM6 and then the MM7 shows up and slam shut. So I think a part of that is, and I've used this for a lot of years. A lot of people are familiar with Jim Wendler, former power lifter, a lot of other things, wrote the programming for, 531 method. And there's a lot of other stuff. I mean, but Jim Wendler's been in the strength world for a long time. But one of his quotes that I always kind of followed is sometimes it's what you don't do in the weight room that makes you stronger. And like you're saying right now with these gripper attempts, or the amount of volume you're putting into your training, sometimes it's not doing 50 gripper closes in a workout and, shredding your arm and then coming back 2 days later to do it again. It's that might not lead to any progress. So sometimes it's, doing less reps and putting that shit away.
And it's more pronounced with grippers too, because you can overtrain grippers so easily. You can get into a phase where you can, let's say you could close, let's pick a number. Say you could close 165 from a Mash Monster set. If you trained every other day, you would eventually get to a point where you couldn't close a 140. Your body wouldn't do it. And you get frustrated, you quit, right? Because if you didn't know how important recovery was, you wouldn't understand what was going on with your body. Keep talking. I'm going to do another attempt here. I'm not 100% sure about my set. I don't know if my set was too narrow or not. Did you notice?
Man, I honestly, I don't really remember the set. I just basically was watching for the handles to touch. And then, it was and within a fraction of a second, they were closed. So I was okay.
I never set to parallel. I always do crazy wide sets, which is another thing I like to do to kind of set myself apart from everyone else. So I'm pretty sure it's good, but I'm gonna do another attempt here just in case.
Absolutely. Yeah. No problem, man. All right, so Jalen's going to go ahead and give us his second attempt here on the MM7, just double checking that the set was wide enough. I believe it was, but like I said, it's hard to go off memory. We're just kind of doing this in the moment.
It can't be narrower than parallel. So
yeah.
Not sure if I got that one.
That looked like there might have been a slight gap in it. I don't know if they touched at some point, but
I'm pretty sure the first one's good, but this is
yeah,
how you do the 3 attempts, right? You get 3 chances to make sure you're good. Now, I know I'm not going to – I'll do a third just as a formality, just to say I did the third, but we'll wait here in a minute. But that's one of the things, like I say, like most of this is automatic. I'm super paranoid because like I'll do the close because I haven't failed one of these yet. I'll do the close and I'll feel super pumped. But then like this like thought is like a worm in my brain. It's like, you set it too narrow. And then I'm like freaking out until I can stop the video and like go and look.
Yeah.
Because it has to be continuous video.
Yep.
I can't do like a segmented thing. So once we're done here, I'll stop it and I'll take a look and then I can calm down. But in my mind, I'm like, the first one was too narrow. It was too narrow. But I'm pretty sure it was good.
It's the same thing with like judging lockout for any kind of feat. Like you do it and you kind of feel like you stuck the landing. But until you get back to that video, you're like, that pause wasn't long enough or that wasn't high enough. You're just keeping yourself in check, keeping yourself accountable, you know? And I think that's important for anybody doing this stuff because a lot of people kind of like to settle and, you know, I don't want to say they don't think that way, but they're content with the bare minimum. And I think that having that mindset to kind of like, you know, even when you slam something shut and it's perfect, you're still like thinking about improving it or, you know, was that as good as it could have been? You know what I mean? The wheels are already turning.
Yeah. So. Yeah, for sure. I'm just going to do a third squeeze here just as a formality.
Okay. Yep.
When I get super into it, you ready? Are you pumped? You want to see this? Let's do it.
Attempt number 3.
Okay, I'm done.
Okay.
Now, if I lose this Saturday, well, it's because of this thing, right? So, no, I'm good. I'll be fully recovered before heavy hands. But thank you, man. That was really cool to do that on this show with you.
No, awesome. Man, I appreciate you. You know, just I guess having the courage to do it and throw it out there. Like I said, whether you slam it shut and it looks awesome, or whether you could have just as easily. You don't know what you're getting into. You could have had a half-inch gap and look stupid. That could happen. But I think that's part of the game. If you knew you were always going to win or you were always going to close it or everything was going to go perfect, then like, what's the point of even playing the game?
Right. So, yeah. And on my post, like you state your intentions on the grip board when you want to do one of these things. Right.
Yep.
So in my post, I stated like I wanted to throw it back on this one to the guys who came before me, the Paul Knights and Dave Mortons and Tim Struess and all those guys. Well, they had no idea what this thing was going to be. Right. I have the benefit of anecdotal information from the guys who've touched it in the past to have an idea of where it sits. But Paul Knight had no idea what this thing was when he was the first person to try it. And he slammed it shut.
It's kind of like uncharted territory.
Yeah. The only way I'm going to get to experience that is when I get to the 10. And that's what's driving me to get through every single one of these. Because I want to feel what that's like. No one's touched it. Nobody's touched it.
And that's one that you wrote down here in your list for our future goals. Was the MM10. So you're just going up. You have full intentions to close everything. There's not like I'll be content
one gripper at a time, but I have an overall goal to get there.
Yeah. So I guess real quick, we'll just keep like I said, I guess the hottest item so far is you just close the MM7 on the show.
Yeah.
Now I'm not a judge. I'm no authority figure. So what I say or what I see, it doesn't really mean shit anyway, but looked good to me.
Yeah.
Handles were closed for a good, portion of time, but I just want to get your thoughts on it. So with you just having done the cert and everything, how did you feel about that?
I felt good, man. There was a little moment before that the handles touch. I was like, is this going to be like a 1 millimeter miss? because I said it didn't feel too far off from the MM6, and people said the MM6 looked easy. None of these are easy. Okay. Like I'm out of breath still, and I'm just squeezing a thing, right? So, and I'm in pretty good shape. So, yeah, like to be out of breath and like my brain is kind of fried, like my nervous system's kind of fried right now. Like I put all my energy and effort into it. So if it looked easy, that's great, but it did not feel easy. But yeah, there was a moment where I thought, okay, this is going to be a 1 millimeter miss, which is okay. Like if I'm going to miss, I'd rather it be closer than wider, you know?
Yeah.
But once I felt the handles touch and I say, oh, there it is, you know, kind of waiting for that resistance to, you know,
open back up.
It's weird because like, it almost feels like it stops when the handles touch. Like it does stop moving, but it feels like the resistance goes away. And it's almost easier to hold it than it is to get that final millimeter. It's very strange.
No, I can relate. Like I said, with much smaller grippers, but I can relate.
Yeah, yeah, but no, I mean, like mentally, you know, it's just when we were talking the other night when this idea came up, you know, I messaged Matt Cannon Powerworks, and I was like, hey, can I do a rep on the MM7 on the grip show? And he's like, why don't you just do your cert attempt? I was like, ooh, pressure.
Yeah,
I like it. And that's where the idea came from. And so
yeah, that's good
to have that manifest, like just from us shooting the shit, you know, and then to get the guy who holds on to these things involved, and he suggests it, and then we all are like super excited about it. And then so the idea comes about, and then to make it happen and touch the handles, like it feels amazing. You can't beat that.
And that's like you said. I mean, I don't say like you're calling your shot kind of, but I mean that's kind of what you've been doing with some of these things. I mean, you're setting these goals and you're just knocking them out.
Yeah, I have inimitable confidence in myself, and I want to show people like, yeah, I mean, it's cool. I want people to see like my work and like appreciate what I'm doing. And, you know, I care about the respect of my peers in this sport, but mostly like what was going through my head, honestly, and this is no bullshit. In my head, I was like, it would almost be better if I miss, because then everybody out there who like social media, you just see like everyone's bench pressing 800 pounds and deadlifting 1,000 and like nobody fucks up. Right. And I want people to see like you can fail and it's fine. It's totally
like reality. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah. Like I was at the Shaw Classic. It was just down the road here a couple of weeks ago. Down the road from where I live. And I mean, I'm watching these guys who are like the best, the strongest on the planet, and no one's ever going to touch, and they're failing in front of thousands of people. They don't give a shit. They just come out and do the next event. So it was like, yeah, there's something to that. So it's like, okay, why? Like I had ideas to like start doing like maybe the last couple Mash Monsters in front of people. So it's even cooler that this came about. But I wanted to say, you know what? I want to put it out there, and I want people to see a high level, you know, grip person like maybe falling flat on his face. And it's okay. It's okay to fail. Like if you don't fail, then something's not right. Either you're a superhuman freak or you're not trying hard enough. You're not challenging yourself enough. So
yeah, I don't think there's anybody that goes undefeated or, you know, if it's a power lifter, they're going 9 for 9 every meet. They always set PRs. I mean, it's just not reality. So I think, like I said, opening yourself up to that, I don't want to say criticism, but opening yourself up to that possibility.
Just reality. I want people to know, like, I don't know. The word fake is kind of controversial right now. I don't want to get into that, but I want people to see like what I'm doing is real, and the advice that I give people is real. And I care about this. Like, this is what I'm into. So I'm going all out with it, you know, and I want people to enjoy the ride with me. So.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Now, just to kind of dive in on some of this other stuff. Like I said, and we might bounce back to the MM7 or these attempts or, you know, reference these other things. Sure. But you kind of mentioned the Shaw Classic. So you're talking about some of the best strongmen in the world, right? Yep. And, you know, you're down there watching them. And like you said, these are the best people at what they do. And I know from like watching some of the reviews of it, I mean, there's certain events that like half the pack didn't even finish. And these are the best. Yeah. These are the best guys in the world. And like, they didn't even complete the event, you know, like half the pack. So that just shows you, I mean, the standard of like what they're striving for, how hard some of that stuff was. But I bring that up because, you know, you're talking about basically watching the world's best right there, you know, right down the road. And then from the notes, you pretty much have that you were out of shape at one point in time,
Mhm.
and you weren't necessarily as fit or as strong as you were right now.
Yeah.
And one of the things that kind of got you, I guess, that kick in the ass to kind of get up and get going
Mhm.
was you got hooked on World's Strongest Man.
Yeah.
So you're kind of staying up late watching these reruns of World's Strongest Man, and you're seeing these dudes do this shit. So it's kind of funny that, like you just referenced, being at the Shaw Classic, but that's also kind of what jump started maybe some of your physical training back in the day.
It's actually cool. It's actually cool you connected those dots because, I was very out of shape at one point in my life. I had never worked out. I didn't play sports in high school. Everyone thinks I played football. I didn't do shit in high school. I played golf because I had a crush on a girl who played golf, and I wanted to be around her, but that was it. I got out of high school, went to college, flunked out my first semester, just playing video games and chasing girls. Came back home and like reality kind of hit, like, dude, you got no prospects and you don't look good and you don't feel good. And one night I'm like staying up, I'd stay up till 2 or 3 in the morning playing video games when I get tired of video games and watch TV. And I'm probably eating like a bag of like flaming hot Cheetos and drinking a soda and eating ice cream, watching World's Strongest Man. And it just kind of hit me. I was like, these guys aren't doing this. They're not staying up till 3 in the morning, putting this crap in their bodies. And I kind of hit like a really low point. And I'm not going to do like trigger anyone or anything here, but I hit a very low point in one of those moments. And I just kind of told myself, it was like, it's 2 in the morning. It's February. It's freaking cold. If I can't go out and run 2 miles right now, what is my worth? And I kind of challenged myself. Like, I never ran, I played tag as a kid. That's probably like the extent of like my running experience. Right. So I go out and I push myself and I run. My town was like this mile by mile square. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I run from one end of town to the other and back. And I did it. It took me forever, but I did it. And so the next day I went out and bought a weight set. And that's kind of how it all just started. And, World's Strongest Man was very inspiring to me. And then to go to the Shaw Classic and watch that in person, and then to kind of get the same inspiration of like Brian Shaw said it after he won. He said, I wrote on my board and I look at it every day and it says, be great. And I thought, well, what does that mean for what I'm doing? And part of it is being real, being genuine with people, pushing yourself to the limit, taking chances. And so this was an opportunity for me to be great, at what I like doing. So
no, absolutely.
That inspiration just keeps flowing. And so I try to expose myself. Like, I'm not an expert on strongman, but I try to expose myself to as much just high level sports as I can, because you get so many life lessons from sports. Like a lot
of it carries over. I mean, being somebody that, I kind of had the opposite growing up, I guess, where like I played like 3 sports. So, I mean, I was always running, always out of practice, always doing shit, always having to perform, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And then, you just carry that into like, well, what am I doing next? Well, then I got into like, MMA and grappling for a long time, doing a lot of striking shit and different stuff. So, I mean, and then that was like my favorite thing for probably most of the last decade, coaching and training with everybody and doing stuff like that. And, but there's so many ways that like how I lifted for football helped the way that I trained for a fight, or the way I trained for a fight carried over into this grip training. It's like once you understand kind of how to connect the dots or how to train, it's like you can almost apply that to anything in life. It doesn't have to be, if this is grip, it's different. It's like,
nope.
It's not. It's like, it's kind of that same thing. Like you're saying, I don't like copy the thing, like, be great, but it's like, well, what does that mean? And it's like, you can pretty much execute that blueprint across the board in any of these aspects. So I basically just took whatever I learned from team sports or individual sports. And then, you just kind of, I don't know, form a way that pretty much allows you to be able to do what you said earlier, kind of be able to kind of call those audibles, and on the fly, you can adapt your training. So when I smack into one wall, okay, well, I've already encountered this before with, however many different sports, I can bounce off and do this or that. So I think that it's you putting yourself out there, or even like I do the same thing. Even if it's not a sport I compete in, I will watch it and probably pick up something from it. Like just an example real quick. You watch arm wrestling at all?
A little bit. Yeah.
See, I mean, I have never arm wrestled. I mean, I don't really have any intentions of ever arm wrestling, but I could watch the shit all day.
Mhm.
And I will take pieces of a sport that I have no intentions of competing in, but I can still like look at what they're doing, the way they're moving their hand, or, you know, and I'll walk away from that with some shit that I'm going to take back into my own training or my next, you know, I don't know what it is, but it's just finding value in whatever you're watching.
Yeah.
So like you're not doing strongman, but you can see the value in it. And it's like, it's going to come to your gripper training. It's going to, you know, whether it was jujitsu, I mean, you've done a lot of different things. So being able to apply that in multiple fields, I think is important.
Yeah. And there was an arm wrestling contest at the Shaw Classic, and you know, I'm sitting kind of far away from it, so you can't really see what's going on unless you're watching the big screen. But the one thing I took away from that wasn't even anything technical. It was the competitive mindset of these guys, how they get in each other's heads, the psychological part. And it's more intense than MMA. Like the psychological, like Devin Larratt, you ever watch him? Like, that's insane, man. So to see that in person, those guys getting that way, like that was intense. Like I was pumped. It was awesome.
I mean, they'll take 10 minutes just to get set up on a table.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The match is short, but it's like the gamesmanship going back and forth and that strategy and just, you know, psychological stuff is the bulk of it. So no, like I said, I think that's cool, but I wanted to make that connection from the world's strongest man kind of jump starting you. And then literally, you know, a week or two ago, you're watching these same people and you're still applying it to your training today.
Absolutely.
So
yep.
I thought that was pretty awesome.
Yeah. I mean, you said it earlier too, like watch guys who were considered at the top of their field, right? Like those are the guys you need to pay attention to. So they were all down there, and it's like watch every little thing they do. You can pick up on a million things. I'll probably go back and watch the replay sometime just to see what I did miss. I find that fascinating too. So good topic, man. It was a good discussion.
No, for sure, man. And so you're currently, like you said, the Shaw Classic was just down the road. So you're located in Colorado.
Yep.
But you're originally from Texas. Is there anything you'd want to explain? Like what I guess what sparked that kind of move? Not that it's that big of a move. It's not really crazy on the map, but anything in particular?
I lived in the Panhandle. So like from where I'm at now, north of Denver, it's like a 6-7 hour drive to my parents' house just to live down there. So it's very close. Not far at all. I moved out here mostly for work, but I always wanted to get up here. I had some cousins who lived in Southeast Colorado, and I would come spend the summertime with them. And I always loved it up here. And then I like the mountains. I like getting out and hiking, camping in the backcountry, stuff like that. So it's just somewhere that I knew I wanted to be. So that was a big goal that I had, and didn't have a whole lot of prospects like I had mentioned earlier. So in addition to getting my body right, I had to get my mind right and find something that I'm good at. And I'm in technology. I manage like a team of engineers now. So I work from home, but I live here in Colorado. I have a great view of the mountains out my window. And I love it here, man. Texas was cool. I liked growing up there. But as I got older, I just didn't fit in socially. Like it's just a different kind of culture down there. And I don't mean political. I just didn't fit with the kind of people there. And not that they're bad people. I always felt like an alien there. And so I feel more at home here. I feel like I could be myself.
Gotcha. So with the move and everything, being in Colorado, you got your training going. You mostly train out of a home gym, if I'm not mistaken. Okay.
Yeah.
So what was you make that move to Colorado? What is that like? Kind of I guess prioritizing that home gym or getting that set up. I mean, is that one of the first things you kind of set up, or did that take a while? Or
so I've been out here for just about 11 years now, and when I first moved here, we had to get like an apartment and then a townhouse, and I just built a house out here like 2 years ago. So until I was able to get out here where I had like a full basement, I had to go to like public gyms or like try to find ways to train myself. And for all the reasons I'm sure you can think of, I hate public gyms.
I'm right there with you, man.
Like before I moved to the house that we're in now, I found kind of a more hardcore like athletic club. Yeah. And I could go there and I could feel comfortable like deadlifting, like getting intense, and like you go to some of these places and you put 315 on the bar, like people are already like complaining, or like it's weird, like they don't, like egos are getting in the way. I don't know, it's not fun. So no, I don't know, it just doesn't make sense, it's like, especially if you look back into like like I said, we don't have to go on a big tangent about it, but I mean, I just think about like, what did different weightlifting clubs and what did different public gyms look like back in the 50s, 60s, 70s? Were people complaining that
someone was too strong? Did they complain that weights were getting banged on the floor?
Yeah.
Just seems pretty stupid to me, you
Yeah.
know, and I just don't know where or when that shift occurred or when that became like a thing that people fell for or got into.
Yeah. I can't wrap my head around it either. It's, but yeah, like the priority, like when we built the house is like, there's a basement, it's mine. You all can have the rest of the house. The basement is mine. It's mine. So
and now you have a pretty sweet setup, because like, I think you did a video the other day where you kind of showed like your power rack. You had like another, like bar you set up for like a Viking press.
Yeah.
And you had all kinds of stuff set up. So, I mean, you got, and then you counted all the grip stuff. I mean, you have a pretty sweet setup. So you probably don't have any reason to train anywhere else unless you just want to.
Yeah, I mean, like if I have like, want to go train with a friend or something,
Yeah.
I could do that. But yeah, everything's at the house. I have a 6-post rack downstairs and I can do squat, bench, everything on it. I got that landmine thing rack now, so I can do the Viking press. Then I've got a deadlift platform where I do deadlifting and the arm lifting stuff without breaking the floor. But here in like my little office, that's like part of my bedroom where all the grippers are on the wall. Like the grippers stay up here. Like I sleep next to these things. That's how obsessed I am with this. So you can't see it, but just right over here is my bed. So I'm like between my bed and this desk here.
Yeah.
So I have the grippers in here because I like to train in here. For whatever reason, I don't know why. I think this is where I started doing it about a year ago before I had all this stuff. And it's just familiar to me. And I don't have to think too much about it. So I just think it's one less thing to take off your mind when you're training. And you can just
absolutely, man,
get in the zone. So,
and bringing up the grippers, one of the things you mentioned in the notes to me was you're doing some insane gripper closes.
Mhm.
I mean, for somebody their first year, you've pulled off, I mean, you just did an amazing gripper close for us today. But you've done other, other big closes in your training and everything else. In our sport, I'll say, there are certain people that kind of specialize in stuff, and sometimes they can get a little one-dimensional. You've made it very clear that although you're pulling off these monstrous gripper closes, you're not a gripper guy. Nope. You don't want to be known as a gripper guy.
Nope.
You're going and taking the same approach of these gripper closes into the competitive realm and all these other aspects of grip. Is that accurate?
Yes, absolutely. I started off just wanting to do grippers, and then I just kind of realized like, wow, like I'll watch people like doing hub tricks and stuff, and like that looked cool to me. And then I realized like I'm only training one area of grip, and grippers don't really apply much to anything else. Like they'll help you with thick bar a little bit, but not really. In fact, like training thick bar and grippers at the same time, it's just going to kind of cancel out your recovery. So you have to be really strategic in how you train. But yeah, I wanted to do the arm lifting stuff. So I bought like a hub and like kind of the standard stuff, then I started doing it, and I got bit by the bug. Like I was addicted to that more than I was for grippers for a while. Then I went to my first competition, really had no idea what I was doing, but I won. And so like that helped. Right. And
kind of made a lot of confidence early.
Yeah. And like, I met a lot of cool people like Steve Millard. He runs the comps out here in Carbondale, Colorado. He's awesome. Like he's been a great mentor, and like he's so supportive of what I'm doing, and the whole crew that comes out for those competitions there. It's great. I wish like Tim Butler and Vinny, they came to Wyoming to do a comp here. So it was cool to have them come down. I'd like to see more people from the East Coast and the West Coast come to Colorado and compete with us out here.
I mean, I would like to get out that way sometime. I've only been to Colorado one time in my life. So I would like to get back out there sometime. And if it was for a grip competition, then that's even better. Yeah. One thing I just want to touch on right there with you mentioning that is Steve Millard running those competitions. Now, I have never spoke to him. I have never met him, but everyone I have talked to has spoken very highly of him. And for what it's worth, I would like to say that I think that's a name in grip that doesn't get as much recognition as it should.
Absolutely.
So with you bringing that up, I want to make that a point right now that Steve is somebody that has been hosting competitions. You can go to so many different lifts and see his name on the leaderboards. He's not one of those people that's, super active and posting 1,000 videos and throwing stuff in anybody's face, but the numbers and the strength are, top level.
Yep.
So I just want to kind of give a shout out to Steve Millard, because like I said, I don't really know him. But that reputation and that name is one, you hear a lot of these names that we bring up, we might've named a few doing the grippers or other things, those are names that are more common, but for some reason it seems that Steve is kind of, flew under the radar a little bit. And I think that anytime I see that name or hear that name, I don't know, you know what I mean? I respect it.
Yeah.
And, like I said, I don't really know where I'm going with that fully, other than just giving somebody credit that I don't think gets enough credit.
Yeah, that's really cool of you to do that, because I feel the same way. He's very low key. He's very chill. Like you said, he's not in people's face. He just loves the sport and he wants to organize stuff. And if 2 people show up, he doesn't care. He'll have just as good of a time. He'll put as much effort into it if 20 people showed up. So
yeah,
the competition that was out here in Wyoming in March, he helped that gym organize it and put it together. And now there's another place where we're going to have competitions. We don't have to go to the same place, and it's a little more accessible for people who aren't close to the mountains. So yeah, it's awesome. He's really cool. I'm glad you gave him some props there. He deserves it. Super strong guy too. Like he's in the masters division, I guess, but he pushes us to the limit when we're competing, like all the young guys. Like he's
no, yeah. I mean, I'm
he's
sure
not
there's
slowing
still
down at all. Like,
yeah, I'm sure there's several lifts he's probably outlifting both of us on still.
Yeah, his Saxon was crazy.
Yeah, guaranteed. So, yeah, just thought that was worth mentioning, because, like I said, it's a name that doesn't get brought up as much as some of the others, but he's always been around. Almost, he's been involved. So,
absolutely,
it's cool that you're out, relatively close to him, and that was was that your first competition?
Yeah, yeah,
that's a good introduction. I mean, when you have somebody that kind of, knows the sport and can perform at a high level, and that's kind of your intro, you get introduced to like, a good experience to start with.
Yeah, because like when he first reached out, because I'd been posting stuff and he finally like caught wind of what I was doing. He reached out and told me about the competition he was running, and I was like, "Who is this guy?" And then like I look him up, I was like, "Oh shit, this guy's a savage." I was like, "This is someone I need to hang out with," And it's great. So anytime I can get with him, I'm gonna do that, because he's a good guy. Yeah,
absolutely. And then, so that would be about how many comps have you done? Because you've been really active as well. So I know you're running up this Mash Monster ladder with these grippers. You're doing that. You got stuff. Own personal feats. Like I sold you that 120 legacy blob.
Yeah.
So I mean, you're lifting that. You're doing combinations with it. You're climbing this Mash Monster ladder. You're picking up the inch dumbbell at, wherever it was. I think I saw a video, and then
it was at one of Steve's comps. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So you're at competitions, competing, lifting the inch dumbbell, but you're also doing a lot of competitions. I mean, you've done several competitions, this first year or so. So
yeah, I did 2 at Steve's, and then I did 1 in Wyoming. I did Super Series. I've done like some of the grab hold online ones with like implements and stuff. But yeah, I've tried to be as active as I can, because I want to learn and get as much experience as I can with these implements, and like be live with people and watch what they're doing. Like I love competing with Tim, because I watch everything that he did. I learned so much from just watching his hand placement, how he does things. He's so freaking strong, dude. It's nuts. So yeah, like I like to associate with super strong people, so I want to learn from them and watch what they're doing. So I'm just kind of, anyone that I know I can get to, I sign up for it, and that's why I'm coming out to hang out with you guys on Saturday.
Yeah. So like I said, yeah, we're kind of talking about past competitions, but we have heavy hands coming up. As I look down at the monitor, today's the 5th. We're lifting on the 9th. So yeah, I mean it's right around the corner. We're here. Yeah, and you're going to be competing at that competition. We have had a few pullouts with some people, whether it be injuries or travel issues, but
yeah, man,
I'm telling you, regardless of, dropping a few, there's going to, and this is not to put down any of the other competitors or anything, because like I said, we might have some people that it's their first competition. So you're not expected to take first, and if you go against a bunch of veterans or whatever, you're not necessarily expected to take first if it's your first competition. So if somebody was making their debut and they have to lift against guys like you and Eric Rusain or Ben Helms or I don't expect them to win. So like, I'm not trying to leave anybody out, but if we go by experience level, regardless of how many people pull out, there's still going to be about 8 or 9 guys there that are serious.
It's going to be
that,
intense.
and that 8 or 9 are going to mix it up, and one guy might get one event, the next event might be a different story, and the event after that might be a different story. And the way that you can shake out, it makes it fun, man. So I'm looking forward to it. And I got my own kind of predictions in my head, I guess, of where I think certain guys are going to be and stuff. And we'll see how close it is, once we figure it out. But to your point earlier, that's what I like about this, is the fact that, like, you're talking about traveling to these competitions, getting experience. We're all going to be in the same room. We're all going to be on the same handle. We're all, pushing each other, learning from each other. There's none of this like, oh, well, at that venue, they used a different thing. No, like, we're all in the same room. So there's no excuse. Everybody's going to get better, and whatever happens, happens. So to me, that's the ideal format, or that's the setting that's going to motivate me the most.
Totally. Yeah. It's great. This is what I like most about this sport. And I'll touch on the notes. Some of the notes here is like developing like a non-toxic competitive mindset. Because I competed jiu-jitsu for about a year before I took grip seriously. And I loved it, man. I love grappling. The competitions are good, but you're in the MMA world, you've grappled, what that is like at competition. It is.
It can,
it gets,
yeah, I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's one-on-one. Like I said, for the most part, on the grappling side, I guess you could say that, not that it's not as intense, but usually at a grappling tournament, the worst thing that's going to happen to you is you just got to tap out. Now, don't get me wrong. Maybe your foot gets caught on the mat, you tear something in your knee, you tap a little bit late. Okay, yeah, you get thrown a little weird, you land funny on a rib. I get it. Shit happens. You can get hurt. But for the most part, the worst thing that happens at a grappling tournament is you tap out and you lose, which isn't too bad. Now, with the fight stuff, I mean, there's a lot more physical damage. There's a lot more consequences, I guess you could say, physically. And, I've just been backstage where there's, one curtain or no curtain separating both warm-up rooms, and you're just, both fucking guys are looking at each other the whole time they're hitting pads and they're about to go fight. And it's like, you damn near got different camps and teams about ready just to fucking brawl before you even get out there. So I get what you mean. So for the most part, a lot of the martial arts and stuff, there's a lot of respect amongst the competitors, but there are those times where you grapple somebody that's just a cocky asshole, or somebody that's a dick, or it's a rival school or a rival person, or there's something political going on, and shit can get ugly, because I mean, it's extremely competitive because there's a lot at stake.
Yeah. So, and like, for me, the psychological part is like, I put all my effort like into grip. I put the same effort into my grappling. And when I'm preparing for, I'm doing like an 8-week camp or 6-week camp leading up to a fight, it's like, I'm in this mindset of like I'm committed and I'm ready to go, but it's like, I'm going to fuck somebody up, and for me, I get toxic. Like I'm impossible to be around, because I'm just in this like killer mode, and I can't turn it off until the fight's done. And that's cool, but it wasn't like it just didn't mesh well with my personality, I guess. And like it's good to know that I can go there, but it's not a place I like to dwell. So with grip sport, I can give the same intensity and go all out on it and get ready for competition. But like leading up to heavy hands, I don't have like scalps that I want to claim. I'm not going out to beat anybody. I'm going out to beat myself and hang out with some cool people and learn and have a good time.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that's what I'm.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the more appealing things about grip, because like you said, coming from a grappling background yourself and kind of getting a taste of that. And I would agree. I mean, I almost, I had my first fight in 2010. So I mean, God, it's 2023 now. So it's been about 13 years ago since I had my first fight.
You're old.
Yeah, I'm getting old, right? But man, that's one of those things where, when I was more actively competing, I still never really enjoyed it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if this is a fair statement. I mean, maybe other people view it differently. winning is fun.
Mm-hmm.
Preparing for a fight is not fun.
No, it's not.
And that would be my personal opinion is after the fight, when you win, it's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. That's like the only good part. But everything up until that, I hate waiting. I don't feel like sitting in the back. I don't feel like, you got 3 more weeks. I just hate having a date. I don't like any. I'd rather just like fight someone on the spot and not have the build up and all the, all the stuff surrounding it. So to your point there, I'm glad I fought. I'm glad I put as much time in as I did. And I'm glad that I still, train to some level. I still have friends that are professional fighters. I still have friends that are climbing up the ranks. I'm still involved with helping them. But as far as me, like, hey, I'm going to go out here, I'm not making it a career. So there's no reason for me to go out and take unnecessary damage, or if that's not going to be something that you're going to pursue to the fullest extent. So I'm kind of in a role where I can coach and help some of my friends who are making that push. Mm-hmm. And that's almost a better spot for me right now, because like I said, as much as I enjoyed everything that I got out of fighting, even when I was doing it, even when things were going 100% my way, I still never really enjoyed it the same way I've enjoyed other sports. It's maybe difficult to explain.
No,
I think you kind of get what I'm saying.
Yeah, like the lead up and the training is just a grind, and it's like you have to drag yourself to the gym every day. Like the first couple of weeks, it's cool, but like once you get toward the end, you're like, dude, I want to do this no more. And everyone's pushing you harder, they're fighting you harder, and you get to the, maybe you'll be lucky enough to take a week off before the competition or the tournament, and you go out. Like I won my first tournament, which was cool, and getting your hand raised in a gold medal match is cool. It's very exciting. It's a huge accomplishment. But then like when the adrenaline dumps and you're just on the ground and you can't even breathe, like you're wondering, like, why do I do this? Why do I do this to myself? And isn't it? I don't regret it, and I'm going to get back into it someday. But it's one of the more interesting things I've done is the grappling. It's very intense, and it makes you really question, like, how bad do I want to do this? Because it's the most challenging thing I've ever done.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we move weights and move other stuff, but it's like when you're trying to fight someone that's moving you back, and there's just so much to it. So yeah, I'm like I said, fighting would be something that I've done so much more than grip, and I'm probably so much better at fighting than I am at grip. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, like I said, there's kind of that love-hate aspect of it.
Yeah.
And like I said, to stay sharp, to stay in training mode, I still will do. I think it's important, obviously, to train, stay sharp, always improve at something. But to go out and take meaningless fights at this point, just not something I'm looking to do. No. And I'd rather be involved in, I guess, helping other people, or kind of taking my experience and pouring it into other people while they make their run. But yeah, man, I can totally relate. And it definitely is it's a great community. And for the most part, it's pretty good. But you run into, sometimes you run into rivalries between, local gyms if they're in the same area. This person leaves this gym and goes to the other. Now there's that. Sometimes you have divides within the same exact gym. Mm-hmm. You have people within the same gym and they have issues with each other. And then there's like a split in your own gym when you're like, oh, I thought we were a team. Why is there a split in my own house, basically? So that sport definitely, there's more room for that political divide and shit to go kind of south. Whereas in grip, I'm not going to say that everybody gets along and everything's perfect, but for the most part, it is a lot less. There's a lot less of that kind of animosity, and I think it's because kind of like the grappling, where I'm like, oh, the worst thing that happens is you tap out. It's like different than getting your head caved in. But like with grip, it's like the worst thing that happens is you go up there and it falls out of your hand, and then you just go right back and you get to try it again or make an adjustment. Or you just root for the other guy that's going to maybe lift it. Like there's none of this. There's not as much ego or your personal health at stake. Yeah. So it allows you to kind of enjoy it.
Yeah.
For sure. So it's interesting, like I said, because I was speaking to somebody not too long ago about this, where we're in a sport that attracts a lot of people, rock climbers, Former power lifters, strongman. But grappling is another one that crosses over. Last episode, I interviewed Adam Glass. He's somebody that has done some grappling. So he's dabbled in some jujitsu. You've done some jujitsu. Like I've, been on that side for a long time. So it's interesting to kind of just see other people that have had a similar route where, like, I'm sure the other climbers, when they see another climber, they're like, oh, hey, like, shit, you're a climber. Yeah. We found this grip thing. Like, it's like, oh, hey, a jujitsu guy. Cool. Like, I don't know. There's like something you can relate to there where, like, hey, we kind of found the same path, but we did a bunch of other shit first or something. So,
yep. Do you want to roll on Saturday?
we could. Yeah. Yeah, maybe a post-competition roll.
Yeah,
we'll get some people going.
Yeah.
That's what I'm gonna do. Whoever has the belt, that's what I'm gonna do. Because I'm not gonna win the grip portion.
Yeah,
but I'll grapple somebody for the belt afterwards.
There you go. Yeah.
So maybe that's the only way I touch that thing.
Yeah.
Because
you just thought you won. Now the last event is you have to grapple Zach.
Yeah, I just think that, like I said, I just think with this event lineup. Mm-hmm. And I'm not like delusional. Don't get me wrong. I'm going to place as high as I can, compete against myself, get the highest numbers. Yeah. I want to smash everybody too. Mm-hmm. But there's probably a good chance Eric's going to outlift me on a rolling handle. I'm not stupid. You get what I mean? I'm realistic. I'm still going to go in and do whatever I can do. But yeah, so I make the joke. Yeah, if it was a fight, maybe that's the only way I'm touching that belt, because when it comes to grip, I see myself probably falling somewhere, tough lineup and not weird events, but difficult to predict these events for everybody that's coming. I would see myself closer to like the bottom of like the top 5, somewhere in the bottom 5.
Yeah.
I think there's 3 or 4 guys that'll probably beat me for sure in this lineup. And if I have a good day, I think that I can probably be right there on the cusp of that top 5 or 6, you know what I mean? So yeah, no delusions there. But yeah, if it was grappling, I'd probably fare much better. But like we said, we're into grip now. So
yeah, we're in the grip now.
But no, funny idea, man. So just kind of I guess we'll just stick with that comp, man. How do you feel about the event lineup?
I'm excited about it, man. It's a good set of events. I like the order. I think the order's gonna, like, we know how strong everyone is individually on these things, but I think the order and the level of competition that's going to be there, I think some dudes might get wiped out, like fatigued in the first event, because there's going to be wars on that 2-inch handle. Like,
for sure, there's going to be some big weights pulled.
I wonder how many lifts some guys are going to have to take if they want to win that event, and then we go right into the Andrews axle right after, which pre-fatiguing one of your hands and going and trying to lift that thing. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, well, and with the Andrews axle, I mean, you're talking a 2 3/8 axle.
Yep.
So your hands are open.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna say with your hand being in a more open position, ideally there's probably going to be a little more wrist involvement.
Yeah.
To contain that bar being thicker than your like 2-inch where you kind of can get it like on your hands,
Mm-hmm.
And you're basically going to be executing a lot of wrist on that Andrews axle, and then right into Saxon, which is also a 2-handed event with a lot of wrist. So I think, like you're bringing up, I think it's going to be interesting, because if you think you're going to come in and pull a PR on your Saxon, I'm not saying you can't, but how many times in training did you pull, who knows how many attempts on this rolling handle plus an axle and then go to your Saxon? Like that probably, if I told you, hey, I want you to try to set a PR in your training today, you probably wouldn't max out on those 2 things first if you were going to try to set a Saxon PR.
Right.
So it's a great point you're bringing up.
That's what's great about it, is the strategy component of the grip competition. It's, we're all strong in the gym, but you got to put it all together, and you got to have the endurance and be mentally tough enough to stick it out. And, if you have to take 5 lifts in the first event, the rest of the event's going to be rough.
Yeah. And I think it's worth noting that with it kind of being last man standing format too, that kind of opens it up to where, I mean, I don't know, maybe the top 2 guys have to follow each other a couple times back and forth, and other guys are sitting out kind of fresh.
Yep.
And, they're climbing that ladder, burning each other out a little bit. And then,
or is it worth taking second or third place to not have to take those extra lifts?
Because it is possible that a guy could maybe finish second or third place across the board, not win a single event, but take the competition, depending on other people's, placements. So
I love the strategy part of it. So
definitely, definitely interesting. Do you have now kind of talk about how much, what you think of the event lineup? What, I don't know. I mean, obviously you're probably going for the belt first overall. I mean, that would be common sense. I mean, what, do you have any other goals specifically that you're trying to shoot for in the competition, or is it just place as high as you can in the moment? Because that's when you're going to, you're going to have to make these decisions in the moment. You can't really predict it. I mean, things might change by event 2 or 3, like you said. So are you just going all out?
I want to beat Chaz. That's all I hear.
Oh man.
No, I'm kidding. It's gonna be fun to lift with him though. Like he's great. I talk to him all the time. Well, obviously I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna go for the kill. I'm gonna try to win. I'm gonna play it smart with the strategy and try to have as much of the mental game down with it as I can. But aside from like placement goals, I really want to get a good pull on the Andrews axle because I think this is the first time it's being done under GSI rules, right? So we're going to be the first guy on that leaderboard. So I want to be part of setting the bar high on that. I think that's
okay. Cool. Yeah, because it has been contested before, but I believe it was unsanctioned at like Living Legends competition. So it's a classic kind of piece that's been used, but as far as getting entered into the database and everything and kind of making that more of a staple event. It'll kind of be the first list, it'll be the first batch of people that are up there. So, and
I'd like to see that lift become more common than the 2-inch axle, in my opinion. I think it's a much more like axle is hard. Don't get me wrong, but this is a more true test of your grip. Overall grip is that big bar.
And I think that's part of the reason that we wanted to kind of bring that back again. And I've mentioned this enough to where like I don't want to repeat it myself too much, but whether it be 2 or 2 3/8 inch axle, I think that really for your thick bar, those two should be just main staples. And I think if you're going to have, and this is going towards both the primary organizations, meaning like Arm Lifting USA and Grip Sport International. If you're going to have an axle and fat grips available, and if you're going to have an axle and multiple sets of napalm handles available, to me, for both these organizations, it only makes sense. Like, how do you not have a 2 3/8 axle? That just seems like such a no-brainer to me. Right. So I'm excited for that event specifically because I think that if you're in grip, the axle is one of the like premier lifts to display grip strength.
Sure.
And especially when you make it that wider diameter, it's more grip. It starts shifting more to grip than your body, which the 2-inch can kind of, guys with big hands, it almost becomes a body lift.
Yep.
So yeah, man, I'm excited for that one, but I just think it's weird that there's so many varieties of thick bar. Yet how did it go this long without a 2 3/8 axle being contested when so many other handles are 2 3/8, the inch is 2 3/8, there's napalm handles, the fat grips on certain bars are almost 2 3/8, they're like 2 1/4. It's like nobody wants to use a thick axle. Like, what's up with that? So
we're
gonna bring it back. We're gonna bring it back, and I hope that sticks around, and I hope more people want to contest it. And I'm looking forward to that. Like I said, sorry to like ramble on about the axle.
But, I'm all about the fatter axle, the wider pinch. Like
I think when it gets to,
I have really big hands, so I like those events. I'm biased, but I like the wide and the thicker the better.
I think that if it gets to like, for my opinion on thick bar, I think 2 inch is kind of the minimum. Anything under 2, we're kind of not. We might as well just be like on deadlift bar or something, a regular barbell.
Right.
So 2 inch axle, I'm completely cool with. I do understand how like big strong men and stuff could like come in and it can almost be more of a body event and it's not really hitting their grip as much.
Sure.
But once you cross over that 2 3/8 or 2.5 inch mark, you start getting closer to 3 inch. It almost becomes a pinch and it's not even really thick bar.
Exactly.
So I would never go that far or want to see something like that. I wouldn't want like a 3 inch axle really contested.
No, I like the 3 inch Saxon, but no,
absolutely.
I wouldn't want a 3 inch. No, I was saying I like the 3 inch Saxon. I would not like a 3 inch axle.
Yeah.
No.
So for
2 and
for
3/8.
Axel, yeah, 2-inch and 2 3/8 would probably be ideal for Axel, and then the 2 to 3-inch for Saxon, I think would be great for those barbell lifts.
Mm-hmm.
And that's any organization. I think that those 4 bars basically cover a lot of your big 2-hand movements and are the really kind of my favorite go-tos. Now, let's just say, because I mean, you've done like Crush to Dust certification where you have to pull, whatever on the Rolling Thunder. You've had big rolling handle lifts in training.
Yep.
Just for fun, like I said, I just want to kind of run down this list with you real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Because we've talked about the events, we've talked about whatever, who's going to be there, when you're going to, as you're approaching these events, I'll say this, I'll just go event by event. Who do you think is the biggest threat to you on the One Hand Nightmare, the first event? Who are you? Who's that?
Jed.
Okay. I think Jed's hand is preventing. I don't think Jed's going to be there.
Oh, he's not. Okay. I heard he might have been hurt, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah. I don't want to say with 100% confidence that he's not there, but I think Jed's not gonna be there for
in my weight class. I don't know him. I haven't talked to him, but Tim Einstein, I've looked at some of his lifts. He's strong on the thick bar. So
he's a strong thick bar guy. Yes.
He is going to be a big challenge in that event, as well as the 2 and 3/8 Axel.
That's a good call. Yeah. That's accurate. I would second that.
Yeah.
So you think Tim's somebody you're looking at for the handle probably and the Axel?
Yeah, he's gonna. If Jed doesn't show up or Jed's not healthy, then I think he'll be the one that I got to beat.
Okay.
And now get first in our weight class.
Okay. And what about the Axel?
The Axel, the same. I think Tim, he knows his way around the thick bar, so I think he'll be good in that one too. I'm pretty like my hand size is good in that event. Like I feel like I'm sorry, that's my doorbell. I feel like my 2 and 3/8 is better than my 2-inch with my hand size. So I think those are going to be really competitive events across the board. Tim and I, and Chaz has been working hard too, so I'm not counting him out either. I know Doug Carney's going to be there. I think it's his first competition, so he's going to be there soaking up a lot of the information. But I think Tim's going to be the stiffest competition in the weight class.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if we open it up to any weight class, Axel, who are you thinking? I personally, Eric. I would say Eric and Ben.
Eric and Ben. Yeah, if we're opening up to the whole field, then Eric and Ben are probably they're gonna go to war for first place on that overall.
And then your Saxon, you've made a lot of improvements to because that's kind of a newer lift to you. In general, right? That
was my weakest area. Like I had naturally. Like my hand size made me kind of naturally built for the thick bar stuff, but my pinch was weak. And now I've got, I'm pulling like 230, 240 on the Saxon bar, which is 3 inches is good. So
that's up there, man.
I hope I can get that in the comp. It'll depend on the first 2 events, but I think probably Nick is going to win. Nick Sanders is going to win that because he's a freak on the Saxon.
I would say Nick and Ben, it might come down to, depending on how the first 2 events play out with, like we said. Now, Little Bighorn, you got any predictions on Little Bighorn? that lift is just so hard.
I hate it. Man. Like it's almost like I'm not even going to train it. I'm just going to show up and do what I can do. And I'm going to be fried by the end anyway. So, I don't know, man. Like Ben, why not? Probably Ben gonna win that one. Yeah.
I'd probably, if I had to pick just for fun, I would say Little Bighorn, probably between Eric, Ben, and Skillet Hands, Nick.
Yeah.
I think those 3 on Little Bighorn would probably in some capacity be at the top.
Yeah.
But like I said, it's whoever you put at the top for one event is not necessarily your first pick for the other event. So I think it's going to kind of it's going to be a close match, I feel like, for the overall. Now, weight classes might be a different story for certain people, depending on how stacked the classes are. But for the overall, if we just throw weight classes out the window, there's a lot of things that can get shaken up. And I think it's going to be, going to be interesting to see.
Yeah. So, and like with Ben and Nick and Eric being there, it's like I'm kind of like focused on just the weight class because I know I'm not going to beat Nick in the Saxon bar. I know I'm not going to beat Eric or Ben in the thick bar, so I'm being realistic. So I'm trying to focus on the weight class and just kind of, like zooming in a little bit and not being focused so much on the wider field. But I'm just super pumped. I'm super pumped to watch these guys lift in person, especially Ben and Nick. Like, I see Ben's videos. I'm like, how is this doesn't even make sense. Right. So I got to see it with my own eyes.
Yeah, no. And I think I'm going to bring some, I don't know how taxed everybody will be afterwards, but I'm going to bring some extra, I guess, stuff for like post competition feats.
Yeah.
If people want to mess around with some blobs or inch bells, or I don't know, some plates or some crazy stuff, whatever. So I'm sure that whatever, gas anybody has left in the tank will probably, screw around and do some cool stuff afterwards. So maybe we'll get to see some interesting stuff happen after the competition if everybody's not too wiped out.
Yeah.
So
it'll be fun.
Speaking of trying to get some of these big lifts on the board for heavy hands, I'm going to kind of just dive in on some of the stuff you've already accomplished. Because, I mean, we've talked about the Mash Monster ladder and some of the gripper stuff. We've talked about kind of where some of your lifts are at and going into this competition. But other things that people might not know, and I might have hit on a couple of them, but you're certified on the number 3.
Yep.
So you're certified on the Iron Mine number 3 gripper, certified on the Gillingham Performance 8, so a GHP 8,
Yep, GHP 8.
which is pretty high up on the list. How high up is that?
Yeah, that's the 8 is equivalent to like a 3.5 Iron Mine. So I think there's like 20 something people who are on the list from the so the GHP ladder is a little different. If like to get on the list, you have to lift the set or close the 7, and then if you close the 8, then you pass everybody who did the 7, even if they did it a million times, and then the 9 and the 10 and so on. No one's on the 10. Carl's closed it, but he didn't do it with the block, so he didn't get on the list. But yeah, so the 8 is up there. I think there's like when the 8 starts, I think there's like 20 people on the list. So it's a pretty serious one. I mean, the 7's hard. Like the 7 is probably equivalent to a 3. Little weaker, but I mean these aren't slouches on these grippers. So yeah, I'm pretty proud of the GHP 8, and pound for pound, GHP grippers are the most difficult ones on the market. They're wider, and pound for pound, they're just harder to close.
Seems like they're hard to get a hold of lately too.
Yeah,
like there's something going on with that, or
yeah, I'm not sure. I don't want to speculate too much on what's going on, but it seems like it might be over. I don't know, because it's been months since there's been any 6s. And now there's no 7s and there's no 5s and there's no 4s. And I don't really know what's going on. I'm not plugged in with any of those people, so I don't know anything for sure, but it just seems like he's not Wade.
Everything's out of stock almost.
Yeah. Like maybe he can't get springs. I don't know. Like I said, I don't want to speculate too much, but it's weird that nothing's been around for a while.
Now I did mention the Crush to Dust cert, which is an old Iron Mine cert. That one's a little bit lopsided in my opinion. That's like a super lopsided cert.
It's a Rolling Thunder cert.
Yeah, pretty much. Like if you just lift the 200 pounds or whatever it is on the Rolling Thunder, you probably can close a number 2, and you can probably lift like 45 pounds on a hub. So not to downplay the certification. It's just a lopsided certification.
Yeah, there's nobody who has failed it that failed the hub. I'm just saying. They didn't lift the rolling and then they failed the hub. It just doesn't. It's never happened. I don't know that for sure, but I bet money on that. It's never happened.
Okay. And then if we that's kind of like some certification stuff. Now, if we kind of get what I would call like more like not certifications, because there's no like governing body that's looking over you when you do these things.
Sure.
But the feats.
Yeah.
The feats. There's that other side of this like weird thing that we're involved in. But you've lifted the inch dumbbell, lifted a 120 legacy blob. You could probably lift more than that. That's what you have available to you. So you're just picking up what you got.
I'm going to Tim Butler's house on the 13th, and I'm going to try to lift Blobzilla in the Yellow Room of Pain. So we're gonna go for it. Yeah,
man. I might have to. You guys might have to like buzz me in on FaceTime or something, or I might just need to make the trip up myself just to witness it, because I've never been in the room. We've talked about it in episode 5 with Tim, but yeah, man. So that's kind of cool that you guys planned that out, and you're going to get a training session in like that.
Yeah, because like it worked out, because like heavy hands, like my family and I were going on vacation. We're going to the East Coast, so we're driving up, from Virginia, Washington, Baltimore, Philadelphia, New York City, and so it worked out. Like Tim's going to be in town on the day we're driving up through New Jersey, so we're going to stop in, live some.
And you guys have already competed together. So, I mean,
Yeah.
it's a familiar face. It's
Yeah.
another high level guy.
You see a friend and do some cool stuff.
Yeah. And he's got some stuff that, in his collection that you don't have access to right now. So
Exactly.
why not knock those out?
Yep.
So on the feet side of things,
Mhm.
if we take grippers out of the equation
Mhm.
and we take other like handle lifts, if we keep it to like plate pinching, we could
Mhm.
say hub lifting, the bells, the blobs, whatever else would fit into that category. I don't care if somebody's talking about sledgehammer, levering. I don't give a shit. Anything that's a feat, you know.
Yeah.
What would you say is probably the most difficult one you've pulled off so far on the feet side? Or what lift are you kind of the most proud of when it comes to that? Like which one got you hyped up after you did it?
The inch dumbbell was cool because it was just like I tried it once at a competition, but it was afterward and I was fried. And I got like a couple inches off the ground, but I was so exhausted from the comp that it wasn't like a fair shake at it.
Mm-hmm.
So the last time I competed in call it up with Steve, I did it before and I just went and lifted it level, both hands, like it was nothing. It felt awesome to just walk up and do that to it. So pretty proud of that one. But you know, even bigger than that, now that I'm thinking about it, like that legacy you sold me. I mean, I just dove in on a legacy 120 with blobs and I lived, it took me like a month and I got it up. Like I'm pretty proud of that because that was hard.
Well, it's hard when you don't have something like, you know, with any other lift, it's kind of like, well, add some fives, add some 2.5s, work up to it.
Yeah.
When you just have a 120 legacy hanging out at your house, it's like, you can deload it with the band. There's training methods, there's assisted methods, but it's still like, you're just diving right in. And it's like, you either lift it or you can't. And it's kind of harder when you have that object and nothing else that's like similar to it. You just got to.
Yeah. I mean, it just came down to, I just had to grab it and squeeze it. And eventually like my hand just adapted. I mean, there was some technique stuff that I learned that helped, you know, but it was just cool. Like, because you kind of said, it's like, you're kind of just like diving into a 3 on grippers, you know, when I bought the thing. And so to be able to lift it not too shortly after I got it, it felt pretty good. And then I like that feat I did where I lifted it and then did the TNS with the 2 on the right hand. So once I can get that blob consistently with my left, I'm going to do it in TNS a 3 with the right. And this is my gripper hand. Right is my gripper hand. My left is way weaker. But
I'm the same way.
Yeah,
I'm the same way. My left is garbage when it comes to grippers. Not that my right is great, but like, like
my left hand is my pick bar hand, like my handle hand, but I'm right-handed, but my left is stronger. So like I have them doing different stuff. So it's cool.
Yeah, it's kind of weird how the more you do these lifts and the more training you do, you start to find out those differences. Oh, my left hand has 5-10 pounds here. My right hand, you really do, because when you start, everything's kind of even. You don't know. Right. But over time, you really get to almost learn yourself. And it's like my left hand is my like my V-bar hand. Just something about the flexibility in my wrist, my left hand is better at. My right hand is like way stronger when it comes to being tight. So like that's where you're going to see like the rolling handles or gripper closes. So it's funny how over time you kind of see what side has a benefit, or not a benefit, but like a advantage over the other. Yeah, and when it comes to one-handed events and competitions and how they lay out, that can be part of the strategy as well. You know, you kind of warming up with one hand or the other, keeping both hands warm, knowing which event to use which hand on, especially if it's a one-handed competition or something. So,
and like just to touch on something that it's not a feat, but we had an inch pinch event at the last competition with Steve, and I set the GSI world record on that. And never really even trained the thing, but I was lifting it with my left hand because I wanted to preserve my right. And I got to like the top 10 numbers with my left hand. And it just was like, it was a weird feeling because it was like, well, what happens when I use my right? And the guy that I like to compete with, Jeremy Everding, big strong man. Like
I've seen that name.
Yeah. He was like, you're going to break the record when you use your right hand. And it's like, okay, let's do it. You know? So it's weird how it's weird to find that out in competition. Like which one is, you know, it's like, wow, this is really, I've never even done it with my left, but I'm super strong with it. Why is that? You know, I don't know. It blows my mind sometimes, like what we're capable of with our grips. Because some of these handles are just brutal, but we find a way to do them.
Now, man, with this is something that I've been getting kind of requests from people for. I usually don't badger people too much about their training. Not that I like, oh, they don't want to tell their secrets or something or whatever. No, that's not it. It's like the reason I usually don't badger people with the training stuff or, hey, what do you do for training, is because if you kind of understand how to train, and I'm talking very like broad spectrum, if you just understand like progression, or like you said, a second longer, an extra rep today, like if you just get how to train something, everybody to some extent is, no one's really doing some like magical program. Everybody's kind of, we might customize it to ourselves in different events and have different strengths and weaknesses that we're working around, a couple different methods, but for the most part, everybody's kind of following the same guidelines. So I usually don't, like I said, I usually don't badger people about what do you do with your training? Because it's kind of like, if I ask everybody over the course of 20, 30 interviews, for the beginners, it's like, they're going to tell you the same shit. It's just going to be the same answer almost. But for anybody that's maybe newer, or just because you might not be the same as some of these other people I've interviewed, I would like to just ask you about your training, but I don't want to just break it down like, well, how do you do your gripper training? Oh, it's once a week and it's whatever you already said, not being a gripper only guy, right? You're balancing these grippers in, you say you hit them maybe once a week. That's kind of optimal.
Right.
You're also a guy that's not only training grip, right? You're working full body compound movements.
Yes.
So that would be another component to bring up. So like I said, I don't want to badger you about, well, how many sets do you do on this? And how do you know when to, dude, like that's stuff that you just have to figure out on your own. I can interview these people all day and they can tell you 65% on this. That doesn't mean the shit's going to work for you.
Yeah.
So that's it's pointless talk. So just for like a general layout, with you being kind of not a one trick pony, you have super high gripper closes. You have very good grip feats, but your overall body strength is strong as well. How do you blend all that kind of in a weekly fashion? What would kind of be like a weekly, I'm not asking for reps and sets and, that kind of bullshit, but what's your layout look like throughout the week?
Yeah, I think I can answer the question like in terms of like principles. What are the principles of my training? And it's low volume, high intensity. Do a lift when you feel like you're ready for it. Because like I don't deadlift every week. I might go 2 weeks without deadlifting because I didn't feel good deadlifting. I'll try to warm up. Things don't feel right. I don't do it. I do something else. And I'll say, if I had a plan to go to the gym and something didn't feel right and I wanted to call an audible, I kind of just look and say, I haven't done my finish ball in a while. Let me pick that up. Or I haven't done like tricep work in a while. Let me work on that a little bit. So I've been lifting for a long time, so I've kind of developed my body like pretty much as good as it's going to get, so I don't really stick to a program. I have goals in mind, like when it comes to like competitions coming up or certifications I want to do. And those will be like my priority principle of what I'm training for. So like for heavy hands, I'm doing the events. I'm training those. Those are my primary thing. But if there's a day where my hands don't feel good, I'll deadlift, I'll squat, I'll hit the bench press, just anything. I enjoy lifting. But no matter what I'm doing, I just make sure that I keep the volume low and I go super hard. It's easier for me to recover that way. And you just got to learn your body. Like you've got to get in touch with your body and know when you're recovered and when you're not.
And
recovery is everything.
And I think another good point there, like you said, with the kind of the high intensity stuff is, we are also in a sport. Now, I'm not going to say that maybe some promoters might not host something where there's a timed hold or some form of endurance. It's happened. It could happen. It could be contested. But for the most part, what do we do in our sport? Talking grip sport, arm lifting, is we do different variations of a deadlift to max.
Yep.
So if you think that you're going to, and this is not me like, I don't know, this is nothing specific, but like, if you think you're going to dick around with 50% and do a shit ton of reps, I don't know where that's going to take your top end, because there's no competition that I'm aware of. Yeah, there's no competition I'm aware of that is, hey, let's see how many times you can do 50%. Now, I'm not saying that volume is bad if somebody wants to work in volume, but if I hit volume, it's usually after, like you said, I've ran things up and the intensity has kind of been topped out to some extent. So if we're working variations of a deadlift all to a 1 rep max, the question of how to train for it kind of answers itself a little bit.
Yeah.
In my opinion. But what you do after that, maybe you could drop down, hit more volume. Maybe you could do some holds afterwards. I think there's room for that. But to make that your training, if your goal is to compete and it's 1 rep max, I mean, it doesn't make sense. So
yeah,
hopefully that makes sense to people listening.
Yeah, it made sense to me. And, I believe it was Ben who talked about it, or someone told me about Ben. He breaks down every lift into each component of it and trains each component of it separately. And I think that's a good approach to like arm lifting stuff, is to, you can train, you can go and lift the handle, but you got to look at what are the different motions? What are the different stages of a lift? Where are you strong? Where are you weak? Throw a band on it. If you have trouble, getting it off the ground, put a band on it, and work on that initial pull, right? So you can do things like that. Focusing on sets and reps it's not productive, especially in, this sport. It's about strength, where you said you're going to do 2 lifts max probably per event, right? Unless you unless you get in a shootout with somebody, or you started with early, but even still, like it tops out fast, it gets heavy fast, and it stops coming off the ground fast. And you got to be prepared for that. So I think training the lift in all of its forms and stages is much better than just doing as many reps as you can. It just doesn't make sense to do high volume. Now, I'll say if I hit a plateau, like I don't get stronger or something, that's when I'll go to a volume. I'll mix it up. I'll do volume for a little bit, then I'll go back and try some singles and see where I'm at, and then I'll start progressing again on getting strength.
Yeah, kind of going back and rebuilding the base.
Yeah. So I think volume has its place, but training volume to get stronger isn't going to work. You've got to train. You have to almost like max effort. I mean, you have to strain at some point. You have to. I mean, I don't do percentages. I load up what I think I can do and I try to lift it. If I don't, I pull 5 pounds off and I just go until it comes off the ground. But the next time I train, I start there and work from there.
I just think some of these people that I'm not saying people are looking for that secret program or something, but it's like I think some of these people just overthink it.
Absolutely.
And it could literally be that simple. I just lift what feels good that day. I lift it heavy. If I can't lift it, I take 5 pounds off and then I lift that. It's like, some people I think they make this too much of a, like I said, I'm not saying there's not levels to it and you can't get advanced with your training. There are some guys that are doing different stuff and it pans out and they're training a little different. They're ahead of the curve. I'll give certain people that credit, but if these are beginners that are a lot of times asking for programming or what should I do, don't overthink it.
Max out every week. Honestly, just get it off the ground. Get it off the ground and get it higher next time. And then when you can lock it out, I'd wait. Like you're never going to know until you just go for it. The worst thing you can do is take weight off the thing, right? If you get too high, it doesn't budge. Just narrow it down. Then you'll know where your starting point is. And then lift it as many times as you can. And if you can do it more than like 3 times, add some weight to it. If you can't do it 3 times, stick with it until you can. It's not hard. But we get like with fitness and stuff, all you hear is like 3 sets of 10, 3 sets of 10. Like where'd that come from? It's just pulled out of the air. Like it doesn't make any sense. Like that's like more bodybuilding training, but if like this isn't bodybuilding. I mean, we get some sick looking forearms, but the rest of it doesn't really apply. So
now
low volume, high intensity.
Yep. And like I said, and that's just because like a lot of times when we have these people that are high level grip guys on, people are curious about what they're doing. And sometimes I don't do the best job of asking them like, hey, what's your training look like? So just wanted to ask you kind of, hey, what's your training look like? I think you did a good job of explaining it for people. Cool. It's broken down pretty simple.
Yeah.
Now that we've talked about that, I'd like to move into future goals of yours.
Sure.
So, and this is something that I really was looking forward to talking to you about. I mean, we've talked about cool subjects already, in my opinion, but the future goals stood out to me because depending on who I interview, like I said, everybody has different goals, but your goals stood out to me in the fact that, like when I read them, like I'll just read them straight off the list. You want to cert the 3.5 with Iron Mind. So that's a, credit card set with Iron Mind. That would be the next jump. Then you have MM10, which is the Mash Monster 10, which we spoke about earlier. Cert the number 4, which would be a credit card set with, that's as high as that goes. GHP 10, that's as high as that goes. It's another gripper cert. Bigger blobs. Well, you're already lifting a 120. You're talking about trying the Blobzilla at Tim's. That's up in that thing, and then you have lift the Millennium. So, which would be like pretty much about as heavy dumbbell as any human can lift. So what I like and what I find interesting about your future goals is that they are extremely high, and they're extremely high, but they're realistic. And I say that because some of the stuff we've witnessed already. I mean, you just closed the MM7. It's only been a year. I mean, grip is a long-term thing. This is a marathon kind of game we're in. So you've already displayed the potentials there, but I like the mindset you kind of talked about. And that's why I said, I think you're kind of different than some of these people in grip. And that's not to say that they're not motivated or they're not trying to push themselves to the next level, but you are very, very direct about what you want to do, what you're calling out, and then making that happen. So when I see lifts that are of this level, and I can see basically all the proof that you've laid out leading up to this point, it makes me more excited for these than if you were just throwing out random shit. Because those lists that are on there that you wrote down, those are like everybody's list. But what does their training look like? What are they actually doing? Or are they just saying shit? Oh, I would like to lift the Millennium someday. Okay. Well, what are you really doing to lift the Millennium?
We'd all like to do it.
Yeah. And that's why I think that your attitude kind of sets you apart. And that's why I really wanted to just do this interview and just kind of get more into the mindset. So for those future goals, like I said, you're setting the bars pretty much as high as you can go in every direction. Yeah. But you're backing it up. You're backing it up along the way. So, I mean, it's like, if I get a guy that says like, oh, I think I'll lift the Millennium, and I've never seen them lift the inch dumbbell, I'm kind of like, you're just talking shit. Like, what, oh, I'm gonna clean Blobzilla. It's like, you haven't even lifted a fat man yet. What the fuck are you talking about? So it's like, some of these people just throw out delusional shit and there's no track record to fall back on. Whereas with you, you're eyeing these things, but like I said, you're on a crash course. I mean, you're knocking stuff out of the way right to it. And it doesn't mean that this stuff's going to be easy. It doesn't mean it's going to come fast. Not at all. But you have, like I said, your body of work so far leads me to believe that every single thing you've written down here is possible. Whereas there's a lot of people that might write some shit down and I look at it and I'm going to be like, good luck lifting the Millennium. Judged on what I've seen, or good luck trying to close this gripper, when you get where I'm going with that. So I think that's the biggest difference I would note in your training and your mindset is you're kind of walking the walk.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of people just, I don't know. It's like I'll get off my high horse here in a minute. So
you're good.
There's a lot of people in this small community of grip. It's still kind of an underground-ish sport where there's a community where most of us, know each other or know somebody that knows somebody, and it's pretty tight knit. But there are certain feats that are so high up and so hard to do that certain people, it may have taken them so long to do them, and then you have other people that just come along and have no idea about any of the history of anything they're talking about. And then they just think that they're like, oh, I'm just going to shoot straight to the top. But there's no foundation behind anything they're saying. There's no proof behind their words. And it's like, until you start building up a body of work, I can't take your claims very serious.
Yeah.
But when I see MM4, MM5, MM6, MM7 back-to-back weeks, when I see the inch dumbbell coming up first time, 120 legacy, you're talking 230, 240 sacks. It's like, man, this is this dude's first year, so it's like, the proof is there. I don't have to question it. So that would just be my compliment to you on that is, these things are extremely high level feats that you're eyeing, but, your body of work so far looks like a body of work that over time will lead to this. It makes sense.
That's
Whereas a lot of these people, they just say shit because it's like cool to say. Oh, I'm going to lift Blobzilla. Oh, that sounds cool. But like, you know, it's like they're just saying stuff. And then you look and their training is nothing of the sort. So
right.
I just appreciate the fact that like you're kind of calling these shots, but you're not trying to skip steps and you're not trying to like take the shortcut or the easy route or cheat anything. You're doing it, you know, genuine. So
yeah. And I mean, each one of those is going to be a massive undertaking. I mean, we're talking a decade probably to get all this done, you know, because I can't do them all at the same time. And I still want to compete. I want to have fun, you know, but I found like what I'm good at. Like I stumbled into this sport and it's just like, shit, I was built for this. I got the genetics for it, I got the hand size for it. My body's like built for it, you know? So a lot of the stuff that, again, don't want to sound arrogant. I'm just being real here. It's like a lot of the stuff that people like struggle with the first couple of years of like just even getting into lifting. I've done all that. Like my body was just already there. I didn't have to do that. Skip that. I was just built different, I guess. So I was built for this. And so after doing this for a year and talking to high level people who are all like you, like 2 months ago, I didn't even know what the blob names meant. Remember, I was asking, what the fuck is Blobzilla? What does that mean? You know, we had that conversation not that long ago, right? So when I bought the Legacy from you, I had no idea what Legacy meant. And now I've talked to you and Chaz and people, and I get it now. So I understand all that now. So when you put me on the spot and say, okay, what are your future goals? And I look at everything honestly, like with where I'm at and the progress I've seen, there's no reason I can't do those things, you know? But now if a year ago and somehow I knew like what all those things were and I put down on paper, I'm going to do this. Yeah, it's bullshit. I formed these goals when you sent me the questionnaire the other day. What are your long-term goals? And I've never written it down because I've just been working my way up the Mash Monster thing, competing, having a good time. I never really, I had long-term goals, but I never been asked like, what are the future goals? Let's put them on paper, you know? So it was an interesting exercise. And when I wrote them all on there, I was like, man, that's lofty. But like you said, like what I've done so far leads me to believe and has led you to believe that I can get it. I can make it happen. So we'll go as hard as I can. Who knows? I might hit a wall and it just stops. But cool.
That's part of that thing we talked about earlier was, knowing how to adapt and switch up.
Yeah.
That's solving problems.
Ode Haugen, he's 73 years old and he's kicking everybody's ass. If I can do half of what he's doing when I'm 50, you know, like, you know, if I can progress at half the level he progressed in the next couple of years,
for sure,
like sky's the limit. So I'm not going to limit myself. There are things that I do in life and sports and stuff like grappling, for example. Like I know I'm never going to go to Abu Dhabi, right? I'm never going to go to ADCC. I'm never going to go there. Like I'm not going to be that good at it. And I don't make that my goal. I make my goal like, hey, I just want to get through 2-hour open mat without puking, you know, be a good level of fitness, right? You just have to be realistic with your goals. And fortunately, like I said, I found what I'm good at. I found what I'm built for. And fortunately for me, my goals can be these crazy feats, you know?
Yeah.
Especially like the GHP 10. Like I want to do the block set on it. Carl closed it from parallel. And like, yeah, Carl's the GOAT right now, but you know, doesn't mean like saying I can do what Carl did doesn't mean I'm saying Carl sucks. Like I'm confident that I can get to that level that Carl's at. It's going to take me a long time, but I can work hard. I know how to train. I know my body. So, you know, I think it's realistic. Yeah,
I would agree. Absolutely. Now I know you have the MM10 Mash Monster 10 written down, but just to kind of backtrack on that a little bit, we witnessed you close the MM7 here, and granted, that's going to have to, you know, pending judging. There's a panel of judges on the grip board that are going to judge that. So we can say it was closed and we saw whatever we saw, but until the judges confirm that, you know, that hasn't been done yet technically, but we saw it. So assuming the judges do what is pretty much a guarantee, how long till you request the MM8?
So the reason why I kind of went all in on the 7, even though I wasn't totally sure that I had it in me, I wanted to get the 7 done because it's closer to the 6 than the 8 is to the 7, if that makes sense.
So you have a kind of you kind of have a bigger jump coming up.
Yeah, and so I wanted to take the opportunity since there's a bigger jump and I need to put in some training. I'm actually going to pivot and I'm going to try to knock out the 3.5 cert next.
Okay.
And then come back to Mash Monster. Because I had a goal that I wanted the 3.5 done like first or second quarter of this year. But I got derailed kind of like on the Mash Monster ladder. I discovered it and I was really enjoying it. And like I said, I want to have fun. So if something's fun, I'm going to keep going. And but now it's kind of eating at me. It's like, hey, you set this goal and you haven't even really tried it yet. So I'm going to pivot back to it. I'm going to try to knock it out before the end of the year. And then I'll still get stronger through training that. Then I can just pick back up on the Mash Monster ladder. I did get hurt in May, so I couldn't do grippers for about 3 months. I hurt my thumb. So that also slowed me down a little bit. But
did that happen doing something grip related?
So I was going hard, man. Like I was going super hard. I was training a little too infrequently. And then I went and played Top Golf and I hurt my thumb at Top Golf. But I had done so much like damage to my hand, like it wasn't recovered, that it was just an accident waiting to happen. So it could have been anything. Yeah. It could have been Top Golf. It could have been throwing the garbage in the trash can, right? So it just happened to be that I was playing golf and I swung and my thumb kind of turned and it swelled up and, you know, it took about 3 months to get right. And when you're working with these 190, like the 7's like estimated like 198 RGC or something like that. Like I'm almost a 200. Like when you're working with these crazy numbers, like this shit hurts. And, you know, I'm just glad I could come back from that injury and pick up where I left off because I was a little worried, like how bad did I hurt myself, you know? But I'm not worried about that now because I just did the 7 today. So feeling good.
Yeah. Now, is there anything goal wise that you think I maybe missed, or is there anything else that I don't know?
I just want to touch on too, like, you know, I'm going to keep competing and I qualified for World Championships with arm lifting USA. So I'm going to go to Florida and do that at the Mr. Olympia.
Okay.
Just going to have fun with that. You know, I'm training hard for it. I'm going to do my absolute best, but it's mostly just for the experience of being on the stage with the best people, you know, within that organization. They compete GSI too. Like people go back and forth. So it's not like people are dead one or the other, but it's going to be cool.
You're going to see a lot of the same people on both sides. And that's just how the sport is. It's
going to be cool to be at a big event like that on the stage, and any opportunity I get to, you know, kind of soak that in, I'm going to take it. You know, I like measuring my life and kind of like experiences. I'm not really like a material person. So I like doing things.
Yeah. You don't want to be that person that has like all this material shit. And then as you look around, you're just like, man, this guy has everything, but he can't tell you a single story about anything. You know, like, I don't know. It's like, where's the journey? Where's the substance? You know?
So, and I'm not taking it for granted. I mean, I could get hurt tomorrow and it could all come to a crashing halt. So I'm training smart, training hard, and doing everything I can to maximize what I'm doing. And, you know, hopefully a year from now, we can do another episode and have a whole bunch of more stuff to talk about.
Check back in, see how high you've climbed up and stuff like that. But like I said, and we'll see where how the heavy hands thing goes. Cause I mean, I'm going to do a recap for that show as well. So depending on how all that pans out, that might be one where maybe I snag 3 or 4 people. So maybe instead of just being a one-on-one, I've done some of these recaps, but it's been like just 2 people.
Yeah.
I plan on doing more topic discussions in the future where we maybe debate over topics or rules or talk about a historical lift or whatever. But having, you know, 3 or 4 people, that way there's more voices going on. There's more, you know, kind of opinions happening. So if I do a recap for heavy hands, I would like to make that a little bit of a bigger recap. And I might schedule something with 3 or 4 of us that were there lifting that day, depending on how everybody does and whose schedule allows for it. But so we might get you on there earlier than a year. You never know. But if it's a year from now, whatever
you want to talk, and as long as like people don't get tired of seeing me, I'll talk to you anytime you want, man. I love this. This is cool.
But with that being said, like I said, we've been rolling a good minute. Not too bad. Do you have any questions for me? I always just ask people, you know, because I'm kind of, you know, asking people, poking at them about their training and talking about what they do. And actually, I forgot about something I was going to bring up with you. Shit. You cool if I bring up one more?
Yeah. I got a little time.
Okay. Sorry. One thing I wanted to bring up and ask you was you are, and I kind of overlooked some of the music aspect. We talked about that the other day, kind of off the record. But your photography and storm chasing, you have a page where you're like chasing down these storms and you're taking really like super high definition, crazy, like just badass photos.
Yeah.
Now, we'll get into your reasoning for it and everything else, but does that have anything to do with like, I don't know, like the element of maybe like you can't fully control nature, so you're kind of, I don't want to say you're kind of like gambling. I mean, do you like know the stuff well enough to where like you're not putting yourself in danger, or is there that element of, well, even if I'm as smart as I possibly can be about this, nature can do a lot of weird shit and stuff can go wrong. So is that something that kind of like gets you motivated to do that? That kind of, I almost like an adrenaline junkie or something.
Yeah.
But is that a part of it?
It's both.
Yeah.
Like I can do my own forecasting and stuff, so I know where the storms are going to be. I know where to go. Like I'll drive down to Oklahoma, Kansas, all over the place during storm season. I didn't get out as much as I wanted to this year. Like gas is pretty expensive, and I got a lot of stuff going on with grip. That's kind of I'm all in on it. So my other hobbies are taking a back seat. But yeah, I just enjoy getting out. Like I grew up in Texas on the plains, so you were either scared of these storms or you were fascinated by them. And as soon as I was old enough to reach the pedals in the truck, I'd go out and watch the storms, come roll into town. And over the years, just learned meteorology at a basic level and understood storm structure and how things form. And I like photography too, so it's kind of the perfect two hobbies to blend together. I like time to myself. I like being on the highway. So it's an all around good time for me just to get out and decompress, and be by myself and in my thoughts, and see how good I can be in the forecasting. And then can I be in the right spot? Can I get the camera configured the right way on the fly? Because the light changes by the second. You can see something and you'll miss it. So you got to be really sharp with your camera. So like I take everything to like the highest possible level I can, and that hobby is no different than grip. But I love it, man. I just love being outside and being around those storms and tornadoes and baseball size hail and 80-mile-an-hour winds and all that. Like you see things that a lot of people have never seen or never going to see in their lives. And
yeah, and I find that super interesting. So I'm about to kick myself. Like if I had gotten off of here without asking you about that, I would have probably like called you up like right away.
Yeah, I started an Instagram for it. I didn't contribute much to it like I wanted to this year, like I said, but it's w.x. So like just the first part of wgrip.x. Yeah, it's I'll give you I might have got that wrong. I'll send it to you. You put it in the description or something if you want.
It's all good. Yeah, man. I can link whatever. Now you're talking about these 80-mile-an-hour winds, giant hail. Do you have an interesting storm chasing story? Like maybe one time you got a little too close. Maybe things got out of hand. What do you have one of those moments that's like a close call, I guess you could say? Or what would be like kind of like the top of that, like maybe a short story you could give?
Yeah, I got in a spot where I wasn't in danger, but I tried to take a shortcut across a field and didn't realize how much rain had fallen as the storm had gone over that way. And I was trying to cut across the field to get back on the right side of the storm and be in a good position. And I got on these roads that were just completely saturated and washed out. And I have a 4Runner, old one, the V8 engine. So it's got a lot of power, a lot of torque, but man, I was out in the middle of nowhere in Nebraska just in mud. My cell phone service was gone and there was nobody around for miles. And if I'd got stuck, I would have been there until the old boy came down the road in his tractor like 3 days later and seen me, So I was fishtailing like crazy. I was very stressed out because I was like, I cannot get stuck, but I'm just all over the place. And finally I had to like drive into like the cornfield, like small corn was starting to grow because I had to get some traction.
Yeah.
So I felt pretty bad about that, but it was the only way I could get out. And luckily I was able to kind of maneuver like that for about 10 minutes till I could get to like a more stable road. Then I got out, but my car was just completely covered in mud. It was hilarious. Like I pulled up to the gas station and people were just like, you went through some shit, didn't you? I was like, yes, I did. Yeah. So, yeah, that's probably the most stressful I've ever been. I don't get in bad spots with the storms. I'm very careful about that.
Pretty smart about it. Okay.
Yeah.
I was just, like I said, sometimes nature can be unpredictable. So
But
I wasn't
it
sure if
can
maybe
be.
you got into like a tight pinch sometime and maybe,
You can
get
get
bad or anything.
Yeah, you can get hyper focused on like what's right in front of you, even though you were using like radar and stuff like I do in the car.
Yeah.
But you can get transfixed to where you're like taking pictures and stuff, and you don't realize that something formed behind you. That's the most dangerous thing is they pop up quick, man. They form in minutes sometimes. So you can get in some bad spots that way if you're not paying attention to what's coming behind you. So I've had a couple of those moments where I've had to be racing against the atmosphere.
Yeah. No, definitely cool. Like I said, it's something I've never done, so I had to ask about it. And like you said, it's putting yourself in situations where probably 99% of the population, unless it was just a freak accident, you know what I mean? Like I don't know, they just fell in danger's way or something. They didn't choose to be there.
Right.
They're never going to see that. So
Right.
the fact that you're kind of out chasing that stuff and putting yourself in those spots was cool to me. So I had to make mention of it before I got too far ahead.
Yeah,
so,
I appreciate that. Yeah, that's
an
interesting topic. It's cool.
So with me like badgering you with all these questions and stuff, do you have any other questions for me? Like I said, because I'm asking about your training and this or that, or what do you think? And
yeah, I mean, the stuff I had in mind, you kind of already answered when we were talking about the fight game and MMA and all that. Yeah. So I just wanted to like know more about, and you gave me a good rundown of your background with that and how you kind of transitioned from it and what you're doing with it now. So that's what I was going to ask you. I already answered.
Okay. Yeah. I just want to make sure we didn't overlook anything. Cause like I said, I mean, we could ramble forever.
Oh yeah.
But like I said, if you don't have any questions for me, and that would cover most of the topics. Like I said, if you have anything else, man, feel free to bring it up. If not, we could probably start wrapping up. But man, I'm super excited that you closed the MM7 for us. Took us, just took us through your training, took us through your first year of grip, or where that's at, how that's progressed up to storm chasing. Like I said, just for me, like I said, a lot of fun to sit down and talk. And we kind of did the Mash Monster segment where I had Chaz breaking it down in a clip recently. You're closing this, you're the 9th person to close this thing on the show, which is awesome. And then you're also getting ready to be facing me. We're going to be lifting on the same platform in a couple of days. So everything for this episode kind of just came together really perfect, in my opinion, just the timing of everything. And
it was really cool how it just came together naturally. It was awesome. So
yeah. So I feel the same way about it, man. So I can go ahead and let you go. Won't take up any more of your time. And man, I'll be looking forward to seeing what you pull on Saturday. And like I said, we'll hopefully pull some big lifts and see what happens.
Yeah, man, it'll be a great time. Thanks again for having me on here. It was a pleasure to show off my talent on the show here and hopefully inspire somebody to pick them up and start playing with them and see how far they can take it. So thanks for your time, man, and thanks to everybody for your support. There's too many people to name, but this is a great community, and I'm really glad to be a part of it.
Absolutely, man. I feel the same way. So I'll go ahead and I'll sign off with that, man. Thanks to you too for all the insight, all the information, and just being part of the show. So anybody needs to find him, W Grip. That's Jaylen Worley. So like I said, if you're not following him, you need to be tuned in. So see you guys next week, or like I said, see you this weekend. And we'll be lifting, man. So I'll see you, dude. Yep.
Take it easy. Bye.
Yep. I'll see you.